My name is Emily Joof, and I am here at Ethnographiska today to read from my new picture book and discuss the importance of representation in children's literature. So I recently published the same book in English and Swedish. So in English, it's called Mangoes and Monkey Bread, and in Swedish, it's called Smaka på frukterna. And the book is set in the Gambia, which is the smallest country in Africa. And it is a conversation between myself, my childhood, and my children based on our experiences visiting the Gambia and tasting some of the fruits out there that we might not necessarily find anywhere else. And we felt it was important to be able to offer that to a wider audience, to stimulate children's creativity, their sense of discovery and adventure, but also as a sense of bringing home a little closer for children who actually belong to that culture. So that's the ideas around the book. So the importance of having diverse characters in children's book is being underlined more and more in research spheres and recently in the media, and it hasn't really reached or trickled down into the homes, into families, and in the couches where people actually read books. So for children who are not a majority, it's really important to have that image reflected back at you in books. And it's important to have your story reflected as well, because it sort of anchors your existence and confirms that you are important, that you exist, that you don't just live a life in a singular space. You belong to a community of people out there. So it's really important to have diversity and to have inclusion in terms of the characters, because then everyone can find a home in the story. And the next layer then is to think about who tells these stories. For them to actually feel authentic to the reader, it's really important to have diversity in publishing, in illustration. And that's what we tried to do with my new book. It's being set in the Gambia in itself was a really big achievement, because from what I can find, there are not more than 10 picture books from that space. And the two characters, they are who they are because they're based on my own children. And some of the dialogue is literally lifted from conversations that we have had. So from a personal standpoint, this was really something that we can all be proud of in my home, in terms of my children can then say, we exist, part of our heritage is here to be shared with other people. And for people who do not belong to our culture, it's also extremely inviting for them to see children doing what children do. Having fun, being cheeky, making jokes, that's what siblings do, right? So we move away from this narrative of children from the African continents or African diaspora linked to migration or trauma, which is basically the narrative that we see more often, and provide a little bit of comedy and relief and discovery, which is what childhood is about. Mirban Couture is an organization that exists in Sweden, and the aim is to lift up, to question, to shine a light on issues around representation in Swedish culture. And due to the backgrounds of the people who are part of this organization, we have focused very much on literature and children's literature. So we offer guidance on where to find books that are representative, inclusive. We question some of the decisions that we see in popular media. So through articles or blogs, we attend conferences and talk about the importance of inclusion. And all of this work is done on a voluntary basis. So it's a wonderful organization to be part of, to be able to be at the forefront of this discussion. But you also kind of question yourself why this doesn't sit quite nested in actually the system of the state that exists to promote, to provide culture, because it is a shared culture. Inclusion is at the heart of society. So Mirban Couture is really a wonderful space, and we hope that it grows organically with time. Museums and public institutions have a responsibility to make sure that all narratives are part of the cultural discourse. So more and more we see more interest in events and organizations that are talking about the Afro-Swedish diaspora, about inclusion, but these are still slightly separate from the main whole. So what my ambition, or what I would love to see, is that we belong, is that people see that the spaces that are created for culture, for norms, belong to everyone, and these need to be representative of everyone in a society. So we need to see more joint events. We want to see African Diaspora Days filled with people from everywhere. We want to see literature days or children's literature days with books from everyone. There is this dichotomy of separating them based on where you're from is really neither here nor there. And I think it serves to only keep our discussion within our own communities when everyone can gain from inclusion. And we need to see that within systems and politicians and those who are responsible and who should be accountable to us. So yeah, big responsibility there.